Hey everybody. So we're trying something different. We're going to be trying to do some flip classes where we take our lectures and record them so that you guys can have access to it at home, that you can do it at your own pace, and then maybe we can implement some more like questioning and talking and discussion in class. This is actually round two for me. I recorded it without the volume, which is devastating. But here we go, and let's see how nerdy this can get. All right, so we're talking about development, and in development, we're going to be talking about, how we change from the womb to the tomb. So we're talking about prenatal period, which is before birth, all the way and through our death. And in this 3.1, we're talking about some of the themes that are occurring in psychology and some of the studies, the methods of research that we use. So some enduring themes that show up in developmental psychology, they're really talking about how we study development. So the first one is chronological order. One way that we approach development is literally from the beginning till the end, right? So we're going to discuss like what happens to us at the prenatal period, to the infancy period, after birth, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and then finally death. Another aspect of developmental psychology, though, is sort of these themes that are there. And some of these issues that we haven't sort of resolved the themes. The themes such as nature versus nurture, stability versus change, and continuous versus discontinuous, which I'm going to show you a little bit more in just a second. So let's get in detail about those thematic issues. Number one is stability versus change. Like, are the things about us stable from the beginning of our life all the way through the end? Or are we capable of great change? And it's a debate that is always in psychology about development. Like, do people, do they regress to the mean? Are they who they are? Or do they have this ability to make dramatic change? And in our lives, we tend to think that change is possible. We have school, which makes us think that we can improve our education. We have rehab, which makes us think that we can get off of drugs or alcohol for the rest of our life, right? We talk about people who change certain behavior traits that they have, maybe if they were cheaters or whatever. We think of the ability, weight loss, things like that, that we can make great change, right? But there's also an argument that we're pretty stable. And one of the biggest things that is argued about stability is our personality. Like, one of the greatest indicators of our personality is our temperament. Temperament is our emotional excitability as an infant. So if our emotional excitability is the greatest predictor of our adult personality, does personality then show that it's a stable condition across all ages of us? And people with personality disorders, right? Those things, behaviors that are disturbing, those things last for their entire life. So this idea that stability, there's also evidence for that as well, even though we are tremendous believers in change. Another big theme issue would be the nature versus nurture debate. Are we just a product of our genetics, our nature, excuse me, or does the environment we are in have a great influence over our behavior, our nurture? So when we look at things like intelligence, we see there's a nature sort of aspect to it that identical twins who are separated from birth, if we were to test their intelligence, they would be at relatively the same levels of intelligence as each other, even though they were raised in completely different environments. And the idea is that their nature was more determinate than their nurture. But we also know that like there's impacts on our behavior and nurture as well, right? That the environment has great impact on us. And we can even think that our physical body can have an impact from our environment, such as what the impact of smoking does to us, right? Or what the impact of being raised with parents who are abusive. What does that do to us? And so we do have this idea: are we a greater product of our nature? Are we a greater product of our nurture? Or what is the combination between the two? All right, and that leads us to our last big thematic issue, and that is continuity versus discontinuous development. Do we develop continuously every day, every hour, every minute? Or are we acquiring traits when we reach certain ages? Do we level up? Like, an example of this would be infantile amnesia. The idea that we don't have memories before the age of 5, well, all of a sudden, our physical ability at like the age of 5 gives us this trait, this ability, this skill, this memory. And so, do we just, does puberty then give us another skill level, and then so on and so on? So, are we just a product of we level up like a video game when we reach certain stages in our life, and then those traits are acquired? Or can we speed up the development of traits because we believe in a continuous development where we can literally give more experiences in the hours and the minutes and the seconds in sort of to speed up this development? An idea would be speeding up someone's cognitive ability by giving them excelled academic courses, right? Excelled academic courses definitely relate into a speedier sort of development pattern. All right, so that leads us to design methods. So design methods are going to be like how we research in development. And when we research in development, we're looking at two new study methods that we haven't actually maybe talked about too much. And they really give us an idea of what the change is occurring from this period of time in the beginning till the period of time until the end. And so, till death. So we're looking at sort of the study of these people across those age gaps. The first one is a longitudinal study. And this one is reliable and valid because it's the same person that you're studying over the same considerable long period of time. And so you get results that are measuring apples to apples, right? You have a group of people or a person that you study when they're 5, and they're 10, they're 15, 20, and so on, all the way until this period of time is done. A longitudinal study, though, does have big issues. The big issues would be time that it takes to do it, the money, right? And of course, the idea of keeping your subjects. Time, I mean, some people want these results much faster. They can't wait for 30, 40 years of research in order to come up with the info that they're looking for. Money, we have to pay subjects to stay for a long period of time, and we have to pay researchers to gather the data, which also can be very expensive. And then the last one is, can you keep your subjects? Will they get disinterested with the right to withdraw? Ethically, they have the right to withdraw, so they could just leave. They could move far distances, or they could literally pass away. And so you lose your subjects, and you've invested a lot in them in a longitudinal study. But then again, the data is solid because we are comparing apples to apples. So we can see what the cigarette damage did to a teenager once they grew up to be 80 years old, because we know that we're comparing what the health of that person was as a 16-year-old to what their same person's health was as 80, and we can look at the change that cigarettes did to that. The other study is cross-sectional. So this is studying different groups, different people in different age groups all at the same time. So we want that information immediately. And of course, now we're comparing apples to oranges, right? These are two different people that we're comparing at different age groups, but we're assuming because they have some similar trait that we can look at what that trait does to a person over time. So an example, we study people who are smoking cigarettes at 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way up till 80, and then we can see what the physical, maybe cognitive, or our social changes were in these people over their time that all shared the habit of smoking cigarettes. Faster, cheaper, right? Because it's all at the same time. You're not having this a long time. Also, your subjects are kept. So all of the problems with longitudinal go away with cross-sectional. But the big deal is that your data loses some reliability when we have different people, right, being measured and compared together as opposed to the same person. So the data, there could be variables that we aren't thinking about that are introduced. All right, so that was the different themes that we have in development and the different sort of research methods that show up, the two different studies that studying people over time. And we're going to pick it up again doing physical development, the next series. All right, see how it works.